Hello, everybody. Welcome to So Into Bourbon. I'm Glenn. This is Charlie, as you can see. And also, as you can see, we happen to have a special guest with us today. This is Dixon Dedman. He is the master blender at 2XO Whiskey. Dixon, thanks for taking time and sitting down with us today.
No, this is awesome. Thank you.
So we are going to go through a little tasting of some of your most current products, right? And before we do that, we just kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about your history, how you got to be where you are today, and just kind of lead up to what led from young Dixon Dedman in, what was it, Danville, Kentucky?
Harrisburg.
Okay.
Kentucky.
To where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I talk about this a lot. I mean, if you had told me this is what I'd be doing now, if you'd told me that, 10, 20 years ago, I probably didn't have two nickels to rub together, but I would have bet them both that this is, it's just kind of, it's been, this really fun kind of, journey, starting out in this very family-oriented hospitality business that my family was in. Growing up in a small town in central Kentucky and being, kind of being born into this very generational business. We were in the hospitality business, had an inn in Harrisburg called the Beaumont Inn, and that was really all I knew. You make the mistake in a family business of showing an ability to help, which immediately means that you're always helping.
Right.
I thought it was fun when I was about 8 years old to take the clean dishes out of the dish machine and put them away, and then from that point on,
Quickly
you're kind of the dishwasher assistant on.
Right.
You've been promoted to employee.
Right. Yes. Got a time card pretty early, but that was my life. Went away to college, came back. Graduated on Sunday, came back on Thursday, went to work, and it was kind of, I don't know, part of the. It's the legacy thing. I was a fifth generation back, and working, kind of with my grandfather and my parents and doing that. And what was kind of interesting is there was a period there where, I don't think it's any different than here. You grow up and you start drinking bourbon at a younger age than you might admit in front of your mother and things like that. But it was something I was passionate about. I had the opportunity to, as a child and growing up, get to know a lot of people that were, influential in the industry, and some of these kind of iconic figures that back then were just like these guys that came
just
in
regular,
at our restaurant. They were just
pre-bourbon boom.
Yeah,
just
it was,
guys. Yeah.
Mr. Russell was just Mr. Russell that always
right.
sat at L3 in our restaurant. He just happened to be Jimmy Russell, but I was into bourbon. I kind of got bit by the collecting bug, and just like we all have, and you go through that phase where you have to have 3 of everything, but we were operating the inn at that time still in a dry county, and it was 2004. I was back from college, and that legislation changed, and we converted a space into a kind of a casual dining restaurant. And I just decided that we were going to take it in a very bourbon-centric direction. And so within 2 years, we were top 100 bourbon bars in the country, and seeing all of this, this really when early stages of the development of bourbon tourism, and the distilleries started investing in their visitors programs and tours, and we started kind of partnering with the very early, first phase of the KDA and the Bourbon Trail, and we were kind of a highlighted place to stay. And I started doing tastings, and I thought, this is just a lot of fun. This is great. We were doing dinners, and bringing in the Al's and the Jim Rutledges and Jimmy Russells and the Elmer T. Lees and the Bill Samuels, and spending time with them, and it was just a lot of fun. And I think there's I don't know if this is a positive trait or a negative trait. my mother would tell you this. I was always kind of one of those, don't tell me you shouldn't do it or you can't do it, because that generally leads to me going, oh yeah, watch this.
Right,
and,
right.
And so there was this kind of family bourbon history that was always kind of in the wings. And, my grandfather's line was always that when he won the lottery, it wasn't if he won the lottery, but it was when he won the lottery. The first thing he was going to do was buy a limousine. And the second thing he was going to do was resurrect this old family bourbon brand. And unfortunately, we lost him before those numbers came in, so I didn't inherit a limousine. But I guess I did.
In case you don't know, it's Kentucky Owl.
Yeah,
correct?
I did inherit this passion for doing that. And so, through, with a great old family friend through the innkeeping business, we decided it would be a lot of fun to take a stab at this and try to resurrect this brand and with no plan, no business plan, no idea what we were going to do. We just thought it'd be great. I kind of put together a model of what I thought was interesting in the space that I thought was, not being done or doing things a little bit differently. And lo and behold, we launched Kentucky Owl in 2014. And, it was this great, for the longest time, it was this great kind of pet project, but distraction from the everyday.
Right.
It was like, kind of get into that world, and,
Right.
and you meet a lot of great people, and that's, it just from there, it's kind of right place, right time, and the brand does well, and we start looking at opportunities and how do we grow this thing, and how do we develop it, and give it what it needs. We needed a bigger engine to push the thing and distribution and that type of thing, and so. I made the decision in 2017 to partner with the Stoli Group, and still best decision I ever made in terms of affording me the opportunity to kind of grow that brand and see what living and working in that big kind of corporate beverage space world was like, and had a great time with that until it was really kind of the pandemic that put that company on a different trajectory than kind of where I wanted to go with it and what I wanted to do and what I thought was right. And, we parted ways at the end of 2020. And, I was just at this point in my life where I thought there's just a lot left that I wanted to do. I feel like I accomplished everything I could have or wanted to accomplish at Kentucky Owl, specifically with kind of the limitations and constraints and bureaucracy that I was kind of dealing with. And so it was kind of like with a couple guys I really was comfortable with and confident in and felt like we're a good team. We kind of said, hey, let's take one more run at this thing and see if we can't do something different. And it was a lot of kind of, I don't know, I mean, pitfalls and dead ends and go down a certain road and feel like that just was a bit disingenuous or that didn't feel right. And I was ready to push pause on the whole project. I was really ready to just kind of say, okay, this may not happen. And then, I was called, got involved with a consulting project with a company I'd never heard of called Prestige Beverage Group, which led to, this partnership, which led to, where I am now. And it's just, I think back on how it happened and I think, how in the world did all these kind of pieces fall into place the way they did? But
serendipity. You never know when you end something, what the next, what the beginning of what's starting next, right? And
I mean,
things just kind of fall into place sometimes.
I think for me, and a lot of it has to do with the way I grew up and being in that business, that family business, that the tradition that my family had. It was always it's kind of like you stick to your guns, you work hard, you gotta believe in what you're doing, and so I was at this point when I had created the 2XO concept, and we were we were talking to all these different private equity groups, venture capital groups, and wanted to fund the thing, and and it's kind of amazing when people are trying to throw this kind of money at you, and you're just like, yeah, 30 million, bring it.
That comes with strings sometimes, right?
Well, and that was the problem,
Yeah.
right? And the problem that was twofold there. One, we were going to have to start sourcing on the market all the time, which is a very volatile and crazy place. I don't know if y'all get into that, but and another topic that y'all get into sometime. But the market is a lot different than it was when we started. But the other thing was, going into something knowing that we've got these investors and their whole reason for being involved in this is not developing a brand, is not doing something creative and unique and different and so, kind of it's all about how fast can you grow it to get to this number of cases, to get this valuation, so we can sell it for this multiple.
Yep.
It was like having these two dudes, in the back seat that just want to, and I understand maximizing your investment, but it just felt so disingenuous. I got to the point I was like, I can't do that. Like, I can't put myself into something and really, put my name on it, go out and say, I'm really proud of what we're doing, knowing that the end goal for these people is how fast can we flip this to the sucker willing to write the biggest check. And so.
So let me ask you this: when you went to Wofford, correct? Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming there wasn't a degree program at Wofford called Master Blender, right? So,
and let me just say this: I refer
progress?
to myself as a blender.
Sure.
They put Master Blender on my business. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how you get the title of Master Blender. I've always kind of wondered.
Well, if
on a
you don't
CV.
know, then that.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
I don't consider myself a master. There are masters of blending. I don't know that I would consider myself one, but every time it comes like the master, it's like I don't know to your point that my English and sociology degrees qualify me as a master blender.
I think maybe just drinking a lot of whiskey might help in that regard.
Oh, okay. Well, then in that case, yes. Yeah.
Master of
I've mastered
Charlie,
that part.
I believe we are master YouTubers.
I'm adding that to my business card.
There you go.
So talk a little bit about, because I know this is the one thing that I'm most interested in is the blending process. Like, can you walk us through like how you approach creating a brand like 2XO, and like how do you how do you go about it? Do you look for something very specific to taste, or are you just tasting to see and kind of see where it leads you?
I think that, I very, 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 very fortunate to have had some relationships that I was able to lean on, when I was developing this, and one more than anybody that was just. And he's a very, considering my mentor, somebody that I'm still very close with, and he is to me the master blender of all master blenders, and that's Jim Rutledge. And so when I was working on Kentucky Owl and developing that and the program and really kind of leaning into the double barreling and creating these. Trying to create unique profiles across these different, barrels I had available to me that I would then, sit down and blend. And the opportunity and the availability to kind of, question him and talk about that stuff. And for me, growing up in the restaurant business, in a commercial kitchen, and everybody always says, like, I want to be a chef, right? I want to be a chef. Mm-hmm. Until you realize that means, like, you go to work and you make the same dish over and over and
as
over
fast
and over
as
and
you
over.
can.
Right. It's not like, everybody says, I want to be a chef because I like playing around in the kitchen with my grandma. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, with that, your grandma ain't in a commercial kitchen.
Right.
Like, that's not the way it works. But, growing up in that industry, what you realize is like we were comfort food, right? But one of our staples was this cream gravy we made, and you could make the exact same recipe, the exact same gravy every day at 4:30 before we opened at 6. Exact same, everything, proportions, all that stuff. But it never tasted the same. You had to then continue to season it to get it where you wanted to go. And you wanted it to be, it didn't have enough spice, so you added more black pepper, or you added more granulated garlic, or you added a little more salt, or you had to add a little more, milk, or you had to work with it. But in that, even in in that setting, you were good at what you did because you knew what minor tweaks and alterations to make. But it was pretty, I shouldn't say it's simple, but like if it's not salty enough, you add salt. Right. Like, and so, I remember going into this and I was sitting down with Jim and I was like, Jim, what I don't understand is like, I've got these 2 spicy components and I've got these 3 very sweet, rich components. And when I put them together, it's just like unbearably spicy, or it just goes blah, or, and he said, he's Dixon, the sooner you understand in this that like 1 + 1 does not equal 2, the better off you're gonna be. And it was really through that and trying not to have the end result in mind, and so it really comes down to now. It's like, okay, you taste through all your components and like you start tinkering. Do these work well together? Does this work well together? Where does this go together? What can we add to this? It's trial and error. Well, that does one thing that I really like, but it does this other thing that I don't like. And I think of it, more along the lines of, and this is the way I described it, the other day. And maybe it was because I had too much to drink when I was doing it, but it's kind of like, I like to think that with each, the blending, when we're blending, I'm starting with a whole bunch of different paint, different paint colors, but a blank canvas. And so you put some red on this side, and then this side looks blank. So you put some blue on this side, but then they're out of balance. And then you put a little green in the middle, and it starts tying it together. And you just kind of keep adding until, and really, when it's the confidence to say, stop. I really like where we are right now. And the ability to say, okay, there's balance here, there's structure here. It may be heavier in this, it may be heavier on the front of the palette or heavier on the back of the palette or whatever, but I like the balance and I really like this presentation. To me, that's the magic of it is, I never blend. I never in my mind say, this is what it's going to taste like. I'm just going to keep working until I get there. It's more like, I'm going to start. And, it's the confidence to say, what I've got right here is a really fantastic whiskey that I'm going to go with.
So along those same lines, when you're in that process, do you have in mind, okay, I'm blending this to my taste, or I'm blending this to what I think our clientele's taste is going to be, or is it just a mixture of both?
No, maybe I'm not smart enough to, but I have never. I decided very early on, and through the help of some other people, I'm going to make the best blend that I can make, that I'm proud of, that I will put my name on. I'm not going to make a bourbon for John Q. Public. I'm not going to make
for the market.
It's and I just think that a true expression of a creation has to be you have to be happy with it first.
Sure.
And I think I take it as a great compliment when people will say, "Hey, these are my 3 favorite things that you've done," and these because that means that I've created different profile, and so right. I don't think about anybody else. I don't solicit any real outside opinions. I don't have a staff of 12 dudes in white lab coats with clipboards.
Tasting different blends and giving you feedback. Market research.
It's always like, at the end of the day, it's like, am I happy with this? Like, is this something, and I just, I feel like, that's just, I don't know how to make, nor do I want to be seen as somebody who's like, oh, that guy is just making something for the,
sure,
for the public.
Right.
So it's kind of like the difference between a Bob Dylan song and maybe a NSYNC.
Well, I'm a big fan of both.
We're all over the board.
Yeah, I just pulled NSYNC out of
We're gonna get
God
hate
knows
mail
where, but
from the NSYNC.
we are going to get hate.
So
mail. That's okay.
Let's get to trying. How about the French oak? We get the French oak down there. So this is the newest release. Glenn, you want to pass me the French oak? And I'll go behind you so I don't smash you in the face. And it's funny you mention, you like that feedback from, actual consumers. We posted a little clip on our Instagram today. If you want to pass that one down. And one of our most devoted subscribers and followers, Ron, said, "Boy, that's a heavy pour. I'm gonna take that one." Said that.
Wait a minute.
Said that this new.
You act like I got stuff I got to do after.
That's a good point. You do have a driver, but he said, "Please let Dixon know that the French oak is his favorite release so far this year, and it is a mainstay on his bar." So thank you, Ron, for that.
Yeah,
And we
thank
told
you,
him.
Ron.
So do you want to walk?
Cheers, Ron.
Yeah, cheers,
And
Ron.
before we do this, just for those who are watching and don't know, 2XO means two times oak, right?
oak.
So
2 times oak.
everything that you release has been exposed to oak a second time, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, again, and
Do we want to show this thing?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it goes back to fundamentally, like, one of the things that was very important to me when I started in this, and it was, and there's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with anybody that does it differently or whatever. It was just, maybe it's just a me thing, right? But I never wanted to be perceived as somebody who just buys your barrels, puts it in my bottle, creates a label, a story, puts it on there and says, "Hey, this is mine." It was always important for me to put my thumbprint, my stamp, my mark on the liquid, and so even initially, and with Kentucky Owl, I leaned into a lot of double barreling, a lot of and playing with different char levels on the second barreling, so I could really put my thumbprint on the liquid itself, and then blending different distillates, blending different age distillates, different mash bills from different producers that we had sourced, so that there was nothing in a bottle that I had produced that somebody could say, "Oh, that's just like somebody else did."
Sure.
Yeah.
It was and so when I was kind of ideating on 2XO and what that was going to be, it was the same thing. Same thing and yet different. We have two sources, two producers that don't really do any other contract distilling for anybody else. They're not the big producers that are doing all the contract stuff. These are big producers, but we're their only clients, making two proprietary mash bills for this program. I mean, you can't find this stuff in any. But then secondly, I still. I feel like that added oak exposure, the additional oak interaction during maturation, is a way to kind of create a palate experience that's unique in the industry. And I didn't want to just do one item in the line. I wanted to build a whole brand around that. And that's what 2XO stands for. 2XO stands for 2 times oak. Everything in 2XO has 2 times oak during maturation.
Awesome. Thanks for kind of running that down for us.
Yeah, sorry, I ramble. But,
No, you're good.
The problem was, and we come to American oak and then French oak. I say this all the time. Like the only thing more allocated in bourbon, the only thing more allocated than your Van Winkles or your B-Tax or your things like the only thing more allocated than that are new charred white oak barrels themselves. And so, and the cost of them is increasing all the time. They're becoming more and more expensive. And so, the idea was like, I really wanted for the first time to play in that everyday kind of, sub $50, what I call the, kill it on Tuesday, replace it on Wednesday space. And, so we had to really think outside the box. And I worked with a company called Interstave to create this program, which is, essentially excess scraps of staves that have been cut into cubes. We char them, thread them onto this stainless steel chain, and they're inserted into the barrels. I insert these into barrels when the barrels are about 5.5 to 6 years old. The American oak stays in there about 8 to 10 months. The French oak was in there 13 to 14 months. So the French oak is more of a toast. The American oak, that one, when it goes in, is a very heavy char. It's the equivalent of a number 4 char. But those chains cost me, 18 to $20 versus the 275
Sure.
of a new
Slightly
barrel.
cheaper than a barrel.
So
You get more exposure to the wood that way, right?
Absolutely, but the kicker is the amount of surface area on that chain, the amount of the surface area on the oak, is the exact equivalent of the interior of a 53-gallon barrel. So we're getting the same oak exposure, but by insertion of the oak as opposed to removing it and putting it in a new barrel a second time.
Awesome.
Isn't science awesome?
Science.
I'm ready to.
Yeah.
I'm ready to drink.
So this French, as I said, stayed in there a little bit longer because I just loved where it was going. The American oak is the traditional kind of vanilla to peppery spice. This is much more of, to me, it's like the inside of a Heath bar that finishes with kind of a coffee mocha thing on the back end.
Speaking my language. now.
Dangerously drinkable. Dangerously.
I mean,
I don't
looks
keep one
really
open at
viscous
my
too.
house.
Amazing color, yeah. And these are 94
90,
proof?
92.
92 proof.
92, yeah.
Yeah. And these are so both have proprietary mash bills. These are the 18% rye, right?
18% rye, that's
18% rye,
correct.
which is by no means a low rye
And
mash bill.
No, it's not. And I should say, I also get, it's kind of interesting when people say it's a proprietary mash bill. There's no such thing as a
Well,
proprietary.
it's your mash bill.
No one owns a mash bill. This mash bill is in other products. This is
Sure.
just made for us at a facility that doesn't make this mash bill for anybody else. I love it when it's like proprietary. That's their way of saying we don't want to tell you the numbers, but no one owns, the specific mash bill.
That's a great point.
It's not
Yeah.
like.
There are only so many mash
Right.
bills.
I mean,
There are only
Yeah,
so
you
many
can
ways to add up to get to 100.
Right.
Yeah.
proprietary is just a nice way of saying we don't want to tell you.
Sure.
But it's so. Cheers.
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 This has a beautiful nose on it.
Yeah, me and Ron, we really like this.
I really like this.
I also really like this.
It's got that nice cola that I like, that cola note. And like you kind of hit it on the head with the Heath bar.
What I like about these personally, I mean, if I'm talking about them, not like they're mine, but if I was just going to talk about them, one of the things that I'm a mouthfeel guy. And I tend to gravitate towards things in the 105, 1 to 115 range because I want the weight and the kind of the viscosity. And even at 92, because of that additional oak in both American and French, they don't have the kind of alcohol, the booziness of something in that proof, but they still carry enough real weight and kind of a syrupy quality, and I can enjoy them neat without thinking that's nice, but it's kind of thin.
Sure.
I talk about it all the time. My two things I hate the most about working in this industry are 6 a.m. flights and having to write tasting notes. I can do it, but to me, I think I judge things. It's about feel. Where do they land?
Yep.
Where do they resonate? And do they have a weight to them? And that's what I really am proud of, the kind of the weight and viscosity and both these. I think they're.
We're with you on the tasting notes. We don't know what marzipan is, and we say this all the time. Like we're the same. Like when we drink something, we get our same 5 or 6 notes if we like it, and then we tell you what it is. And the one thing I find interesting about these is that it's kind of got that classic, that oakiness you want in a double oak. You definitely know it's a double oak, and without being too dry. But the American oak gave me the same. I get just this awesome tingle in like the middle of my tongue, and it's just the right amount of rye spice, and it's one of those that you just keep wanting to go back to it. It's so good.
Yeah, I think the rye and the oak really balance out well. Like it's got a really nice finish. It lasts quite a while, but it's not overpowering and it's not bitter or really super dry.
The whole goal of that, of the, adding that is to create, complexity. Complexity not in I can come up with 17 different obscure tasting notes, but so, complexity to me is I can feel it.
Yeah.
I can feel the sweetness on the front of my tongue. I can feel those savory notes in the middle of my tongue, and I can feel that spice on the back of my tongue. And that's complexity, where you kind of touch the different sections of the palate. And a lot of bourbons, nothing wrong with them, and especially at lower proof, they're kind of one-dimensional on the palate because of that dilution. They either are sweet because they're wheated, or they're all on the back because of the rye. But adding this oak and building out that front so you have that transition from sweet to spice is why I think a lot of times, to me, they're dangerously drinkable.
Yeah, we talk about depth of flavor. Is that where you were going to go? Yeah, that's one of our favorite.
You love to say it's cascading flavor. And we always, Charlie and I both say, we want something interesting, something that kind of takes you on a ride.
Cascading. I
Cascading.
guarantee you that comes out of my mouth later tonight.
Yes.
I guarantee it.
Trademark, not to be used without the written consent of someone, the Bourbon Enterprise. No, I really like this one, and American Oak is a mainstay on my bar. I like it. I like it a lot. And you mentioned kind of the everyday. I like it. It holds up great in cocktails. It's just a great all around bottle to have. And it checks a lot of boxes, and the French oak is right up there with it.
Well, I mean, for me, it was something I really wanted to do, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity with Prestige and the way they've kind of allowed me to pursue these things. One of the challenges I always had in my previous life was that they somehow. And you pick your battles, but so I fought it as best I could. I used to tell people my card says master blender, not master pricer. But you make something, and then a lot of people get it and they're excited about having it, but they've got this investment in the bottle.
Yeah.
And so when am I going to open it? I'm going to ration this out. I'm not going to only special occasion or whatever. And I think. Bourbon it should be shared. It should be enjoyed. It should be. It's not as much about having this pretty collection behind you, but about what are you willing to open? What are you willing to enjoy?
Experience.
Yeah.
And so it was. I really was wanting to try to to play in that world, to create something there, and that place that, as I said, the greatest compliment to me, now is when people say, hey, every time I go to dinner, or invited to dinner, I grab an American Oak and I take it because it's a nice gift and they're going to enjoy it. It's not a $400 bottle or whatever, but and so. It's been a lot of fun. This line is going to continue. We're going to add to that. I want to do a rye whiskey in that line. I'm working on a couple other, things to add to that. So
You have me at rye whiskey, so super pumped about that. That's awesome.
right.
It's going to be fun.
Well, do we want to move on to to the next?
Let's. We're running short on time, so I definitely want to get into the. And can you say the name before I butcher it? The
Kiawah
Blend. I called it Kauai Blend the other day.
Yeah.
And,
we had some people who they were excited about the Kiawah Blend, and it's like. One person asked me if this has anything to do. Do I have a Native American heritage and things like that? No, it's fun about these icons is instead of doing, batch 1, batch 2, batch 3, we really talked about doing something that, had a different icon on the front, different story behind it, different narrative, and it's been fun to see people kind of attach to that. The first one I did was called the Phoenix Blend, and that was, was not my first choice, but because I was like, it's cool, except I have to go talk about this. And I was like, they're like, oh no, you're rising from the ashes, and I was like, I don't like talking, but Phoenix, is kind of like a fresh start, and I did the Innkeeper's Blend after that. It was kind of a throwback to to our history there.
That was the first 2XO I ever had, was the Innkeeper's Blend.
And then did the Tribute Blend. Tribute was a lot of fun because my dad had a little health scare, and so I had him help me blend that. And,
that's
and
awesome.
So I didn't tell him I was going to do it, but I named it the Tribute Blend and put our family crest on there. So that one is really special to me. I did that with my dad.
That's
I'll
awesome.
always be able
That's
to
cool.
have that one
Yeah.
and say we did that one together. But even Phoenix, for example, when you have people who say, yeah, look, I was in this career for 20 years and always wanted to do this and decided to make a fresh start. And so I left my job and I started this company. And when we got going, we toasted with a Phoenix blend because it was, when people kind of have that,
Sure.
they make that connection with the bottle
yeah.
or whatever. Those things are fun. So Kiawah is named after a little place south of Charleston, South Carolina, which is where I grew up going as a kid and where we go as a family. That's our getaway, and I think everybody needs kind of that place to go and recharge your batteries, and so decided to call this one the Kiawah Blend, and this is very similar in profile to the Phoenix, which is the first one I did. This is about 45% of what's in here is the high rye, the 35% rye that's been in the number 4 char on the second barrel. So this one really lands very heavy on the front of the palate for me. It's really kind of that kind of syrupy, sweet, viscous thing right there on the front. A little more muted spice than in like the Innkeepers, which is the first one you had, or even the Tribute. But
It's got an amazing nose on it.
It does.
Unbelievable.
And this is 104 proof.
104.
correct?
Yeah.
And what's fun about these icons, so the for the whiskey, I think Phoenix, the dump proof was right around 111. This one was about 113. They've all been between like 110 and 113, bottled at 104. So, all of them are 70+% of that double-barreled high rye. And so when you only go from 110, 112 to 104, they carry all that weight and
Right.
viscosity and just that real kind of, I love the syrupy kind of coating that it does on the palate.
Well, I'm excited.
Let's try it.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, that hits totally different on the palate, like you said, right up front.
To me,
tip
it's
of your
good,
tongue,
like,
and it just
coats
kind
the
of,
front third of your palate. It's almost like a little bit of spice on the back end, but I just love the way it kind of lands and spreads across the front third or so. And
And then to me, it hits kind of on the back edges of the tongue too.
It's that awesome tingly. It's almost like carbonated. It's just so good. Like it just has it, and like you said, the mouthfeel, just an unbelievable mouthfeel. Like almost, I really like this one a lot. Like the rye spice, and it's not. There's something about your rye spice. Like we talk about rye and spiciness. It's almost not spicy or even peppery. It's almost like just an effect, like almost like a pop rock to me. Like it just kind of tickles your tongue, and it is so good, and it's very unique. I really like this one. And then the finish is just pure, just oaky, sweet, delicious. This one's really nice. I like this one a lot.
it's a real cascading effect. I was kind of waiting for you to pick up your glass.
Would you say it has depth of flavor?
It tastes real good when it goes in your nose. And yes, cascading depth of flavor. No, thank you for that, Dixon. I really appreciate that.
I timed that
That
all
was
wrong.
really good timing. So I almost spit
That was
out bourbon.
perfect timing for him.
That was great. Something tells me that'll be B-roll. That's going to go on our Instagram page, just be in a loop and me almost choking.
What's interesting to me about this one is I feel like it finishes more in the center and towards the front of your tongue rather than
Yeah.
the back.
You know, one of the things I think is kind of a hallmark of a weightier bourbon. I'm not talking about a boozier bourbon, but a weightier bourbon is that after you taste it, you're left with that, like the tingle in the places where it really hits. I mean, to me, like I can still feel it on the front third, and then right there, kind of middle sides of the back, where there's just a little bit of that spice. But that generally is when I say, "Oh, I want more of that."
Yeah,
which is,
it makes you want to drink more.
That is absolutely what it is, and you hit the nail on the head because I love saying that. Middle tongue to
We
the
haven't
front
had
of
a
tongue.
bourbon economy
We
reference
haven't.
yet,
Hey,
but
I
we're
haven't
getting
mentioned.
there. We're
I've
gonna
not
get
mentioned
there.
the bourbon economy in this episode, Glenn, but like I feel this like on my gums. Like I feel like my teeth can feel it. Like it has.
I think Charlie's in love.
It's so good. I really like this.
That's
one.
because you almost choked on it.
It did. It may have something to do with
Can you
it being.
feel it in your nose?
It has a great effect on my sinus, which is awesome. I'm going to start, tasting bourbon in my sinus, and that's going to be a whole new channel for us. So, but
From now on, you'll have a box of Kleenex next
That's
to you.
right.
when you-
You give it a whole new meaning to nosing.
that's. Thank you for that. So, well, I think we've said it all. I think we've kept Dixon here as long as we can.
Are
So,
we being wrapped up,
I
Charlie?
think we're getting pretty close to wrapped up. Are we being pretty close to wrapped up? Yeah, we're being pretty close to wrapped up. So
No, this is cool. I tell you, I've done. You know, it's fun. You know, I've done a lot of podcasts. I had a podcast for a while, but you know, they found out about this and watched what y'all are doing, and I'll tell you that I think. You go about this in such a cool kind of, easygoing, open, honest, your opinions, not trying to come off as some sort of authority, but kind of like, hey, this is just what we do, what we
Sure.
like, what we appreciate. And I think that's so healthy and awesome. And I think, you guys do an amazing job. I'm honored to been able to be on and to thank you.
Well, we appreciate you saying that because
Thank you.
that's kind of our goal is not to be, oh, we're so special. We can taste 37 different notes
Yeah.
in this. But hey, is it good? Is it not good? Here's what we like. Here's what we don't like. So really appreciate you saying that.
Yes.
And we really appreciate you taking time to sit
happy to.
down
Thank you so
and talk
much.
to us today and share some of
No, it's
your
my
some of your
pleasure.
great
Thank you.
product.
Well, Glenn, tell the nice people what to do.
Well, what you have to do is check us out on socials, Instagram, Facebook, So Into Bourbon, Whiskey Realtor on TikTok, and most importantly, you've got to keep those wallets loose.
And that bung hole tight.
That just happened.
Perfect.
Good night, everybody.
Peace out.
Dixon Dedman. Awesome way. Should we talk about our catchphrase before
Oh,
we?
yes. Keep
I
your
don't know
bung
what
holes
you-
tight?
Yeah,
That's
so
our
that-
sign off.
What's that?
Keep your bung holes tight.
Okay.
Is
All right.
You want to? Are you allowed to? Can we have you participate? in our-
Absolutely.
I love it. So at the end of the episode, Glenn will say, "Keep your wallets loose," and you just tell them, "Keep your bungholes tight."
Got it.
I'm just going to kind of bring us in and introduce you, and then we'll just kind of
Make it up as we go
there.
along.
Make it
Yeah,
up as we go along, yeah.
That's podcasting,
That's
right?
the So Into Bourbon way. I'm so happy right now. I'm so excited.
We're going to 3, 2, 1.